and how to handle things differently. I think also the first 2 days when I was in the Meadows, I basically didn't say a single word to a single human being because I was like, why are they looking at me? Or I was like, why am I here? I was like, blah, blah, blah. All these thoughts were going through my head. And then I finally just said to myself, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be here for 45 days. I might as well just, bite the bullet. Let's see what can happen and give it a chance. And then hopefully I can learn and grow from this experience. And ever since I went through there, that was probably the first time I had a real sit down, like face-to-face conversation with my father in probably 15 to 20 years. And it was actually in an environment that was controlled where we couldn't like blow up and get hot-headed and just explode on each other. I think that was something that was so beneficial for where our relationship has grown since then. And
you were really surprised that he was willing to come.
I didn't want to invite him. So my therapist said, invite him to Family Week. And I was like, why? I was like, it's just going to be another letdown that he'll give me in my life. I was like, I don't want to be let down. I don't want that fear of rejection again. I was like, why would I even waste my time in doing this? And my therapist said to me, he said, if you do and he doesn't come, you at least know where he stands. And I was like, all right, that's true. I'll give it a chance. And he came, he showed up. I was very surprised. And we were able to get a lot off our chest that we had, almost compartmentalized for 15, 20 years of, just pain that we both suffered. And
a lot of misperceptions, it sounds like.
Of course.
Yeah. What was the biggest misperception you had about your father? And what do you think the biggest one he had about you that got cleared up? By the way, watching him poured me into tears because seeing how much he really loved you, he wasn't able to show that before. It was just so moving.
I think one of the things that I learned the most is he did the best he could. And maybe he didn't know exactly what to do. And maybe he could have done things a little better. We talked about things that frustrated me growing up where, like I remember when I first set my very first American record short course yards instead of Olympic size 50 meters. And it was in Baltimore and he said he was going to come and he never showed. And I brought that up. And of course he had an excuse. And I was like, I don't want an excuse. I was like, I'm just telling you feelings that have been inside of me for a long time and I have to get this off. And when we, after sitting there for an hour going back and forth of certain things we wanted to talk about, we were able to kind of breathe and almost feel like we had like 50-pound weights just taking off our shoulders. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is a easier way of living. It's so much more simpler, just opening up and communicating. And I make the joke that I learned to communicate at 32, but I guess I'd rather learn than never learn how to communicate. So it's been really, really great for our relationship to be able to have sort of talking boundaries that we use, and when we're trying to get certain points across that help us have an adult conversation.
Are you guys close today?
Closer,
yeah.
I think it's still kind of on my terms of how much interaction I want, just because it really wasn't there for 20 plus years. I could probably say I saw him half a dozen times in 20 years. And,
wow.
So, I've been able to let that go. And now it's just going to be on my terms to be able to build whatever relationship I want with him. And he has seen his first grandson and he hasn't yet met Beckett.
That's beautiful.
So it's a process.
That's wonderful. Your sister says you're a lot like your father. She said you're both bullheaded, you're both intense.
Probably he probably gave me a bunch of good things to help me get through some of the struggles that I had in the pool and kind of helped me get to where I was. I always said I dreamt of having like a white picket fence with family dinners and all of us being together as a family, and I never had that. But I don't know if I would have had it, if I would have been able to have the career that I did. So frustrating, but obviously very fortunate with how everything turned out.
What do you think is, I want to go back to Bob for a second because he's had such an influence on your life. What do you think, if you had to say 3 things you pulled from Bob that you'll retain the rest of your life? They didn't just affect you as a swimmer. They definitely affected you as a swimmer, affected your life. Are there 2 or 3 that have come up that stuck for you? Can you remember sometimes you said something where it was an aha for you and you went?
I think one of the cool things that he said to me as a very young kid that I'm trying to get back to doing now in the real world, he removed the word can't from my vocabulary.
That's awesome.
And I would always say it.
He just wouldn't let you say it?
Yeah, he basically said, he's like, if you can't do something, if you're saying you can't do something, he's like, why are you here? He's like, why are you wasting your time? Do something else, because you've already made the decision up in your mind that you can't do it. So, for me, like that was something that kind of helped me to believe that I could do things that other people had never dreamt of or were too afraid to dream of. I think it's definitely helpful to me as well today with things that I'm trying to do after I'm done swimming and now raising two boys.
Yeah.
So I think that's just such a negative word that we can all just take out of our vocabulary, because it's disgusting. Like, I hate that word so
Words
much.
create emotion, and emotion creates your life, right?
That's
your
right.
actions from your
That's
life.
right.
That's beautiful. What for you is, when you look back on this career, this extraordinary career, what are the things that stand out the most? Is it the gold medals? Is it the relationships? Is it the breakthroughs within yourself? What stands out when you look back on this career of yours? Extraordinary. What do you treasure most?
Well, I don't know if I can fully answer that, because I don't know if I fully understand what's happened in my career. I think I understand a certain part of it, but I don't think I really understand all of it, because I was always going from one thing to the next. I never had time to kind of sit back and enjoy the ride and enjoy the experience and the process. I was always preparing for the next big thing that we were getting ready for. So, I've kind of gotten through 2008. Honestly, like lately, I feel like I'm starting to turn the page on 2012 a little bit. And Rio, I feel like I'm just going to have forever, because it was the greatest experience for me, being able to come through the struggles that I had to be able to get back to the top of that mountain. It's really, in my opinion, I think it's really easy to climb to the mountain, to climb to the top of the mountain and get there. It's hard to stay there. And for me, after 2012, I felt like I got kind of knocked off of it. So for me, I was so hungry climbing that mountain going into 2016 that, I felt like a kid again. Like what Sean was saying, like you're enjoying it, you're having fun again. I honestly still wish I had goals in the sport, because I think it would be really easy to do it again, but I just have nothing else that I want to accomplish in the sport. And I think now I've finally gotten to that point where I am happy about retiring, and I am happy about moving to that next stage in my life. And looking back at the hard work and dedication that went into all of this, now the transition from that into the real world, especially having the 2012 experiences, is going to be a lot easier for me. And I'm enjoying it more. I'm enjoying this process more. I'm learning a lot more about, trying to live in the moment. That's something that a buddy of mine, this thought has been in my head for a couple of days now. He gave me The Power of Now. And he gave me that book, and I was like, I'm going to ask a lot of questions to you. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, I said, what are some things that you did to try to stay more in the moment, or practice staying in the moment? And he